Sadashiva Samrambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Isvaro Guratemeti Murtibeda Vibhagine Vyomavada Vapatadahayam Dakshinamurtiyam Namaha Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Brahmatosham Om Shanti Ramji Dayananda Shankara Shimayananda. He or she is said to be liberated while living when self-knowledge is clear. Bliss is continuous and the world more or less forgotten. We all want to know about what is this bliss that is going to be there all the time, this continuous bliss. That's the most interesting thing, So, I was having a conversation with Sylvia, and Sylvia was pointing out maybe it's Ramji means to say that the bliss that is always present has that certainty and confidence of one's nature as limitlessness that is always present, even when there is disturbance, mental disturbance occasionally. There is this certainty on the background. She was pointed out that's a nice way to put it as well. That's knowledge. That's why we say knowledge is that which is always good, because it remains firm. The same way we have the firm knowledge that we are a human being and not a cockroach. So we have the firm knowledge. I am consciousness, awareness, and I'm not the jiva, the construct. And then even the jiva gets a little bit agitated here and there. The knowledge, establish the appearance jiva as the self, and he immediately objectifies his or her jiva as a phenomenal object. And the moment that we see ourselves objectively, immediately we somehow we are something other than that. We are the knower. We are the witness of all transitional object, impermanent object. Because what makes a disturbed mind to stick and to grow and make a big story out of those small adversities we encounter in life is the identification, the mind. We, consciousness, identify with a certain life situation. And then we make a big drama, a big story, and then it becomes big. Then we need to call our friends and say, please, I need to talk. And then we have to, okay, please tell me everything. So we have made it monster, giant, small little thing, small little adversity. We have fed our love, energy, attention into it, and then it became a monster. So when you are no longer so identified, you establish your identity as awareness, and those thoughts, they don't stand. They are seen objectively for what they are. So it is this background of knowledge of one's own limitless nature is what is always ever present. That's the background. And then the mind modifies within the scope of this background, which is what we are, conscious, awareness, knowledge. When we no longer believe happiness is in objects, we will no longer suffer the pain of trying to gain them, nor the sense of desolation that follows their loss. It's so hard to get something in life, and it's so easy to lose. We have the trouble of trying to get it, and then when we get it, hey, I got it. And then right after, a big problem, how to keep it. And then working to keep. And then sooner or later Ishvara is going to change the field and that object fades and goes away. Your girlfriend, your boyfriend falls in love with your best friend, and there they go. And then and then we have the problem of desolation that follows every time we lose our dear object, the object we have identified and become attached to. And what is the number one object that we identify, love, and get attached to, Sylvia?
Love?
The body, the physical body. We will know that happiness is our fundamental identity, nature. When we no longer believe that we can find our nature in objects, we want to enjoy our own nature. We want to be natural. We don't like what is not natural to us. That's why we try to get rid of this sense of limitation imposed by duality. The duality is like I'm not everything, so there is me and the others, and I'm just a small little thing. It's very limiting, so we want to get rid of this sense of limitation. We want to find ourselves, but we fall for the trick of Maya, which says that reality is duality, and then we try to find our nature by gaining certain objects or avoiding some other object. When a desired object is gained, we come to rest in that nature ever so briefly, but only until a new desire arises. If we no longer desire objects, there will be no interruption of our happiness, bliss. And then one say, now I got it. I understood there is no bliss, joy, and security on any object. Those are attributes of my own fundamental nature. And I say no to desires and fears. No more desires and fears. Why I'm going to desire something that is going to agitate my mind until I just have an experience that tells myself that now I can rest on my own nature if I am my own nature. Because nature is that thing by which I cannot exist. It's my fundamental existence, it's my nature. Why not to say no, desires are either dirt, you don't knock at my door anymore. That's very simple. But it's not easy. Because the conscious mind can say, hey, I'm done with the desire. But the causal body is going to keep presenting those desires and fears as our likes and dislikes to every situation of life, because it's very deeply ingrained, very deeply rooted in the causal body. Therefore, we have to keep doing our nididhyasana until this knowledge is so firm that it somehow grows roots in the causal body and works for us on that level. If we no longer desire objects, there will be no interruption in our happiness, we would say. And we will no longer desire objects if we know that happiness does not come from possessing them. The liberated jiva being is firmly convinced of this truth and abandons the chase of objects. So there is nothing to disturb his or her bliss. There is nothing mystical about self-knowledge or enlightenment. It's all about that. Once we know who and what we are, and we know the nature of what we are, limitless, fullness, completion, all pervaded, there is only one without a second. When we know that we are this light, illumining and enlivening everything and everyone, and then the mind relax. All mental agitation of projecting objects as something that maybe is going to resolve this problem of limitation. The mind keeps projecting, and tamas keeps concealing all these projections and conceal. It's what the jivas, driven or operate under the spell of ignorance, experience disturbance of mind. Understand? When this knowledge is firm and you know what it means to be awareness, and then the mind naturally ceases to present us with those notions that we should try to gain something, as I mean to get secure, happy, complete, satisfied, and so on. It's that simple. Therefore, the importance of having this knowledge hard and fast. It's nothing more. The liberated being is firmly convinced of this truth. Before we are firmly convinced, we see the beauty, we see the logic, we like it, we wish it to be the most fundamental truth, but we have a few doubts. And these doubts, they prevent us to enjoy this knowledge in the background, conditioning our experience by the means of neutralizing those bits and pieces of ignorance that says there is something missing. You need something here. The liberate being is firmly convinced of this truth and abandons the chasing of objects, so there is nothing disturbing his bliss. He rests in the self as the self without interruption. And when we no longer chase objects, the world no longer claims our attention. That's what they say here. When we have this self-knowledge is clear, the verse says, bliss is continuous. This inner satisfaction, this background of peace, contentment and satisfaction is. And the world, more or less, is forgotten, meaning to say it does not show that attractive anymore. The world shows attractive, shining, beautiful to the degree that we believe that there is something there that's going to complete and make us happy, satisfy, give us peace and love and so on. The moment that you know that all those attributes are one's very nature, and then the world does not shine as beautifully as before, and then some people get a little bit scared. Oh, but I love the world. You love the world from this perspective because you still have an investment that something there is going to establish you, firmly, permanently happy. And maturity is maturity to the degree that we see through that delusion and we know that nothing is going to produce permanent, infinite happiness and satisfaction. Because everything out there is something other than myself, therefore is an object. And an object is always bound by time. It's impermanent by nature. So the world is going to be more or less forgotten. But we are not advised to forget to pay our bills in the end of the month. We need to pay the rent, pay this, pay that, act accordingly. And always acting, bring into the picture the universal benefit or interest or values, that which is good for everything and everyone. And when we no longer chase objects, the world no longer claims our attention. We are only concerned with the world when we believe we are individuals and that our happiness must be measured by our relationship to the objects, our attainments of things. That's how we measure our happiness, by what we possess. Of what use is the world to us when we realize that we are limitless, whole, full and complete, pure awareness? You see that somehow somebody expressed the knowledge so radically, like Nisargadatta Maharaj or even Ramana, when they are trying to do something about his cancer. They bring this Ayurvedic doctor who gets some mixture of the elements, some mud stuff with some herbs, and then apply to his cancer, and then he looks and says, mud over mud, how interesting. No? They are putting mud over mud. So put some elements over the element, and I'm here unconcerned about mud. Or Nisargadatta Maharaj, when he says like, so let the addiction of the body to remain with the body. If it's gonna kill me with cancer, who cares? So I don't care for this manifest body and the world of objects. This is extreme detachment, dispassion. Well, it does not mean that we cannot enjoy a nice glass of red wine here and there. We can. We can enjoy our friends, we can enjoy life, but the world is not going to shine anymore as something that is absolutely necessary for completion, for your own satisfaction and completion. It's seen as it is, Ishvara's projection that I can relate from a positive standpoint, but not depending on it for my happiness and satisfaction. You understand? You just enjoy without much excitement, but you enjoy. Oh, nice! Oh, I laugh. So beautiful. Everything is so beautiful. But I am the beauty that makes things look beautiful. So how about that? It's beautiful. And moreover, it's only you appearing as the lake. Can the self gain or lose anything? Can it be affected by the state of the world? And what is the state of the world but temporary arrangement of apparent objects that come and go as thoughts in awareness? You know those enlightened guys that are all agitated because they want to save the world? They want to erase suffering from the world. They want to have, like Osho Rajneesh, like that. I leave you my dream. That was his last word. I leave you my dream. His dream was to change the world. He wanted to have a world made of enlightened individuals, beings, happy, where suffering can be removed, injustice can be removed, and so on. What is the point? To try to change the world. It's under the domain or jurisdiction of Ishvara, not of the Jiva. So it's just a projection, so you don't get much excited about that. And it's all following its rules and laws, and everybody's following their own nature, their own karma. There is no need to control, like Krishna said to Arjuna. What is the use of control? The world is going to follow its nature. Don't try to control your experience or try to control the world. But the moment that you know who you are, you become a cool, friendly, nice creature that inevitably have a positive impact on your friends. And then people say, this thing about enlightenment or self-realization or moksha, it may be true. Maybe it's not just a fiction, and people think that this is just a novel, a fiction. No, maybe there is something to it, and maybe it's possible to live here and having a happy, cool, easy life. And it's only possible based on knowledge of one's own nature, always full and satisfied. And what is the state of the world but a temporary arrangement of apparent objects that come and go as thoughts in awareness? Utopian schemes are based on the illusion that happiness is to be had by arranging these apparent objects in one fashion or another. How much misery has arisen? Arisen or arisen? Arisen. How much misery has arisen from the endless attempt to make the world work for us? I mean, you see people, they come, I want to bring justice to the world, we need a social revolution. Some people will say, no, we need an economic revolution. And then as a result, we need a religious revolution. And as a result, we start killing one another because my ideas are the only way out of this mess. And then when you see the very people who want justice is corrupt and placed in power, so you see it right and left. Because the fundamental problem was never addressed, which is ignorance of the real nature of the individual as the self. How are you going to transform the world without this fundamental piece of knowledge? You're going to rearrange the events, the thoughts, and try to make it work, and sometimes it works for a short period of time. But then again it changes. How much misery has arisen from the endless attempt to make the world work for us is not what we call history, but the sad record of suffering caused by the implementation of various schemes to reshape society according to some ideal. It's only suffering. We see all these movies, huh? It's just killing and suffering. People trying to establish Dharma by the will of physical power, economic power, wars and so on. Oh, we need to establish. That's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. It appears that Arjuna is there to reestablish Dharma, and by confronting Duryodhana and his family to reestablish justice in the society. But it's just Krishna fighting ignorance by asserting knowledge. Because knowledge is the only thing that can reestablish Dhamma. It's the knowledge that's going to. That's why Arjuna preferred Krishna. So I want to reestablish Dhamma. I just pass on the army, but I want Krishna because only knowledge fundamentally is going to reestablish Dhamma. Understand? When we become established in this knowledge, we no longer think about improve the world. There is no real world. Nothing needs to be improved. And even if the world be granted a temporary reality, and even if it could be demonstrated that we have an obligation to make it a better place, how should we know what is need to improve it? Oh yes, no, my idea is the most correct one. I had an experience. I don't know if you ever heard of Venus Project. Has anybody heard about Venus Project? Zeitgeist movement? No? It's a social revolution, social economic revolution. Many years back I got involved because it's so brilliant. There was this engineer, social engineer. He died last year at the age of 102. Huh? Yeah. And so he was joined together with a very young man, very brilliant mind, the leader of this Zeitgeist, if I spell it right, movement. And they are working together. I was really appreciating their efforts to try to reestablish Dharma. There was some knowledge there, not spiritual knowledge, but knowledge about how fundamental they would say, unless a certain degree of justice is established, we're going to keep killing each other, and there is no ground from where spirituality can evolve. I said, it makes sense. Because if we are fighting all the time, if there is injustice all the time, wars all the time, and then the minds of the jivas are all the times distressed, and there's no way one could contemplate on the nature of oneself. And they say, no, first things first. First we need to establish Dharma and create a society on which spirituality can grow. And they have the blueprint of this revolution. Brilliant, very brilliant. So I got involved a little bit. And then one day came this publication that, what's his name? I forgot. John Fresco had a disagreement with the other guy that I forgot the name as well, from Zeitgeist movement. And they broke apart. And then it came to my mind, oh my God, the very two guys who want to bring a social revolution and to create a world of justice by the use of all the scientific knowledge available to us, join all nations together without any borders and so on, and very beautifully designed. The two very guys who are proposing that, they could not agree among themselves, so how they are going to think that the governments of the world are going to agree with them? Understand? That's what the scripture is saying here. How can I make it a better place? Based on which ideas? It's my idea. How should we know what is I need to do to improve the world? Which notions are that? Liberation frees us from the illusion and the arrogance of worldly ambition, like I want to change the world, even in its most altruistic expression. That's very nice, huh? Even those very altruistic expressions, it's a certain level of arrogance of the ego, being under the spell of ignorance. We are not sinners, so we need not try to be saints. That's also very nice, huh? Why try to be saint? We are so concerned about having an absolute purifying mind. Maybe it's that nagging voice that tells us, oh, I'm a sinner. Sometimes I heard Ramji say, you like purification. Go for it, knock yourself out. Find a cave, do some sadhanas, and so on, and purify yourself. So maybe we are so fixated with the idea of purification because there is still something saying that, oh, you're a sinner, you need to be purified by, Padre, Spirit, or whatever. There is no reward, nothing to be improved. Liberation frees us from the illusion and arrogance. To imagine such a freedom is wonderful, but to live it must be wonderful beyond words. I missed one. We are fine, just absolutely fine as we are, and so is everyone else. For only the self exists and it does not need to be fixed. Everything is following its nature, its karmic laws. We don't need to try to do the karma of anybody else. We don't need to become do-gooders. If we do so, it's because we have a vasana operating which says that I am a sinner and therefore I need to do something to compensate that. For only the self exists and it does not to be fixed. Everything is the self. Why we want to go then to fix the self? It does not mean that we are completely insensitive to people suffering, next to us. We can just extend a hand here and there, smile. Smile, I find it very nice. You just smile at someone and respect. Usually most people suffer for lack of love and respect. They did not get enough love and respect. When you treat someone with love and respect, regardless of their social caste, it's a nice gesture, love and respect. To imagine such freedom is wonderful. To live it must be wonderful beyond words. Just consider for a moment how much anguish we have endured through trying to become a better person. All the resolutions began in hope and end in despair. In the United States we have this thing is very big, New Year's resolution. So in Europe as well? Huh? Yes? Maybe it's in Brazil not. It was not. People do not care. They know their words. They mean almost nothing, All the spiritual mirror gazing at a reflection of which we are ashamed. All prayers, tears, and recriminations. So this is the frustration of seeing our resolutions not coming through. When I was young, I shared with most of you, I had a very difficult upbringing, and I had a lot of resentment and anger. And all my poor ladies, girlfriends, and wives suffered. I was so beautiful, but then I would flip, and then I would become angry. The love would turn into hate. It's very common of bipolar personalities. Love turns into hate, And then I would have one of my explosions of something coming from my past, and then I would hurt my wife. And then I would just go and, I promise you, it's the last time. I will never do it again. Never, ever. And they say, no, it's too much. I'm gonna make my suitcase and leave. I say, no, please. Without you, I'm nobody. You're gonna kill me if you leave me. Please, stay with me. And then I would convince my wife, and she would stay. And then it would pass a few days, a week, and then the same Vasana would be somehow, I would start triggered with a situation here. There was some stress, and the spouse, they know how to push the other spouse buttons very often. And then we see that Vasana finds expression. And then again I say, the last time, it will never happen. Those resolutions, it's frustrating. Until one day I just understood that I was powerless. There was some power called Maya, or ignorance, that was compelling me to think and act in certain ways beyond my willpower. And then one day I gave up and said, oh, that's what it is. I have no control. I'm weak. I know it's no good, but I keep doing it, so feel free to pack up and leave. I don't promise you anymore. But I promise you one thing. Every time this nothing makes me act in this way, I will say, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Because it's important to apologize. Some people commit ugly, disrespectful, some acts verbally and physically, and they remain in denial. They don't even apologize. So apologize is a good step. You know, it's beyond me. It somehow it forces me to. It almost seems to be my nature. Yes.
I'm sorry. What about reconditioning your mind to try to have an influence on that vasanas? Because otherwise we are lost.
Yes, that's why we have descriptions on Karma Yoga and Dhamma Yoga. And that's why we are here. I was talking about me when I was very young. I was trying to work out my things from the standpoint of psychology. You know? The jiva trying to understand its program and trying to neutralize it, but it's not very effective. And we live in a society that encourages this organized narcissism. Were we to step into a bookstore and proceed to a self-help section, we would have at our disposal a vast array of recipes for cooking up a better personality. The jiva wants to be happy, I tell you. If you want to sell to the jiva what we call self-improvement or betterment, no? Psychological ways to work or self-affirmations and so on, you'll find a huge crowd. And then you decorate that with connotation of spirituality and so on. People come and they are ready to pay any money because the jiva wants to be a better jiva. No? The jiva is not interested to understand that the jiva is not a jiva. He wants to keep his identity as a jiva and he wants to acquire the status of being a great jiva. And that's why you find a lot of customers when you propose that kind of therapy or spirituality. We want to be a better personality. And there are the counsels of religion delivered to us by the priestly and ministerial class, who presume that we need serious fixing and that they can prescribe to us as the chosen interpreters of the divine word. Or we can fall into the hands of the other priestly class. That's nice. The psychiatrists and psychotherapists. Those are the other priests of our modern times. You know? Don't worry, this thing about God is just BS. If you want to, we're going to take care of you. We're going to give you some electrical shocks, give you some Prozacs and some other things, and then we're going to recommend you to a therapeutic that's going to somehow make you feel like you can be back in society. Who prescribe to us as interpreters of a scientific world of psychology and psychiatry, promising to help us to rearrange our thoughts in a way that will make them less afflicting. Imagine being free of all this anguish, introspection. Imagine you are not a personality that needs fixing. Then realize this is the truth. Feel the relief. Feel the freedom of not having to try to become a perfect jiva. There is no such a thing as becoming a perfect jiva. You can do a lot of work, and it's not to say that psychological work is a waste of time. It was helpful in my experience, but it's just the beginning. The beginning we are so neurotic that a little rearrangement could be helpful until we can move into meditation and then Karma Yoga and some other entry-level spiritual groups, groups where there is love here, there is shock, there is peace, there is a father figure, the mother figure, and so on. Imagine being free of this never-end process of trying to become a better jiva, a jiva with the status of perfect jiva, a wise jiva, enlightened jiva. This is the fantasy. Huh? I want to be enlightened, but I want to be an enlightened jiva. Enlightened jiva. Would the jiva know that enlightenment is the end of the jiva? At least from the perspective of its own eyes. As I said, in the eyes of the world it may appear as another jiva. But enlightenment is just when you understand that there is no doer, there is nobody owning and being originator of thought. There is nobody identified as the construct that was given to by Ishvara. Imagine the freedom. This is the life of the liberated. This is why moksha is the most valuable thing in life and why Vedanta endures. It endures because it works. And Vedanta, the moksha is not only the most valuable thing in life, but it's the only real valuable thing in life, because any other values for objects we have is only for the sake of establishing for a brief period of time our freedom, which is our very nature, which is the only valuable thing there is, our freedom. Okay, this is a short one, we do the last one. Can we do the last one? Yeah. Samadhi, or you want to put an end now? So we want to do a little bit more, or we want to go for lunch? A little bit more, 15 minutes more?
Yeah. Yes.
It's up to you. Even though he or she lives in a body, the most salient characteristic of liberated beings is the absence of the sense of I and mine. That's what we have been saying. The body is not an obstacle to self-knowledge. Religious generally presume otherwise, and what is termed sin usually involves indulgence in some form of bodily pleasure, judged to be either intrinsically or circumstantially wrong. So there is nothing wrong with the world. The denial of such pleasures, the world is there and we can engage and gain some pleasure, no problem. There's no sin involved in that. The denial of such pleasure is termed virtue. This is a fundamental mistake. So no, I'm depriving myself from the pleasures of the world, from appreciation of the world. That's denial. Self-knowledge is not that. Self-knowledge is to believe. No, we say it here. But it is the denial of such pleasure is termed virtue, which can include ascetic practice designed to punish the body, as thought it were guilt of transgression against the spirit. Yoga sometimes takes the form of such virtue, but it is the identification with the body that keeps us in darkness, so to speak. The only thing for one pursuing self-knowledge to believe I am the body. It's just the identification is the problem. And every yoga that is based on the denial of the body, literal denial of the body and the objects of the world, which we call, how you say that? Asceticism? Asceticism. Is just reinforming the belief that the body is something most important here. So therefore I have to deny certain pleasures and contacts with the world. The body has to be denied, the mind has to be denied. So It's not about that, it's the identification with the body as myself, I am, and the mind as one. That's what has to be renounced. Renunciation is not renouncing the world, and the body is just part of the world. It's renouncing the notion that I am the body and I need the world in order to be complete. So you need to do that, and it's only by the means of knowing your true fundamental nature. Yoga sometimes takes the form of such virtue, but this identification with the body that takes us in darkness, so to speak, the only sin for one pursuing self-knowledge to believe I am the body. That's very interesting. The only sin, the original sin. We hear about the original sin. The original sin, the scripture says, this sin of identify with the body-mind, with the body to begin with. But it's not our fault. It's all due to Maya and its universal, beginningless ignorance. Liberation is being freed from this identification, and when we no longer believe we are the body, we no longer claim ownership of objects, all of which serve some purpose relate to the body. When we say, this is my house, we mean this is where my body lives, much of the time. This is very interesting, because since I became houseless, since I became homeless since 3 years, when we are done with work and business and so on, I don't have a house. And some people think, oh, it must be horrible not to have a house, you know. So, and they don't know that I always find a house. There is always a shelter over my roof, and there is always food on the table. And houses do not offer any security to begin with. It's only trouble. You know that every 5-7 years you need to spend a lot of money to paint your house outside in the United States to protect the building itself. And you have to keep maintaining this physical body, the house and everything. So when we say I'm the body, liberation is being free from these identifications. We no longer believe we are the body, we no longer claim ownership on any of body's objects. I don't own this body and I don't own anything that the body owns. That is such a liberating feeling, to be free from attachment to people, place and things. Attachment from people, place and things. Oh, it's very cruel. You are not touch your son? I'm sorry, but I'm not. Oh, and how about your wife? I say, fundamentally not. Oh, you're giving away your restaurant for almost nothing. It must be devastating, because it's your baby. No, I'm sorry, there's no attachment, And it's so liberating not to have to carry these attachments around. To live as a free spirit, free soul, knowing that Ishvara is always going to provide a roof over your head. And there are a lot of bridges. You can always be under the bridge somewhere. And in India, you always have the option of becoming a sadhu, a nice sadhu, a Western sadhu. There is always some food being provided, some trees.
And there's a curb roadside, you can sleep anytime.
Yeah, it's a good weather. It's not like in Europe that you freeze outside, Here there is good weather and so on. No, we can relax. We no longer claim ownership of objects. When we say this is my house, we mean this is where my body lives. Liberate beings also live in house, but they know their house, like the body, is just a mithya. So it's just a temporary condition. only apparently real, and nobody owns anything. We are awareness expressing itself through an apparent body which makes use of apparent objects. But if we are in reality no body, and there is in reality no time, no thing, who can know what? This is all knowledge, and this knowledge fructifies in one's own experience. Again and again we have to emphasize enlightenment, self-knowledge is just pure knowledge. It's not an experience. But when they describe the condition of someone firm on this knowledge, it describes also on experiential terms. One feels relaxed, easy, cool. No agitation, no afflictions, all is good. It's good when it's good when it's not good. I don't need anything, the less the more. In the United States there is a nice saying, less is more. I don't know, maybe this is a saying you find in every culture, but it's very valid. Less is more. Because the more you have to strive to keep. Liberate beings come in many shapes and sizes, we are told, but the verse describes their innermost salient, most notable and important characteristic as the absence of sense of proprietorship. Proprietorship. Mine. My karma, my action, my wife, my house, my friends, my thoughts. As soon as we own something, we begin to feel anxious about it. Why? Because we're going to lose it. It's just a question of time. Wow, no, but this is my body. Give me a break. Take away the house, take away everything. I will accept that I don't own anything, but this one here, it comes and it goes. And we are all agitated, afraid to lose the body. As if by losing the body we lose our existence. Because we can lose only what we believe we own. If we know that all belongs to Ishvara, we know there's nothing to be lost here. That's what it means. The mind of the jiva resolves itself along with God. As soon as we want something, we begin to feel anxious. Because we can lose that which we want. I, as a body, cannot be happy if the bank forecloses on my house, or my stock market investment crash, or my wife runs off with my best friend. Has anybody of you lost a big, significant chunk of money that you earned very hardly, hard work? When you really work hard and you attach your money and then you do a mistake and then you lose, let's say, half of your money, it hurts so much. It hurts so much. You know?
More than to lose the wife, right?
It depends on the degree of attachment, the attachment you have for your wife.
Depends on how rich she is.
Yeah. Right.
There you go.
Depends how young she is.
We get to know each other.
So stock market investment crash, or my wife goes. But if we don't own anything, there is nothing we can lose. And the fact is, we don't own anything. Pure awareness itself is not any of the objects that appear in itself as awareness. Not a house or investment or a wife. Discrimination has taught us this. Only the ego, reflecting awareness and usurping. What is this, James?
Usurping is like you take something that doesn't belong to you.
Okay.
Like power, you know.
Okay.
You take it from the leader.
Okay. Only the ego, which is reflecting consciousness, which is the imposter. It's a false entity, owns things. Only the ego does that. Awareness does not own anything, because everything belongs to awareness. That's the key here. Everything belongs to me. Why to be concerned about gaining, maintaining, and losing? Discrimination has taught this, only the ego. Freedom from ignorance is not freedom from body, it's not freedom from object, but from body identification, identification with objects and all that goes with that. Most notably, the ego, the sense I, and mine, the source of so much anguish. That's the ego, the sense of ownership, doership, I and mine. That is the cause, fundamental cause of human suffering. So when we are liberated, we keep our bodies. Hey, good. Oh, now I relax. Now I can keep my body, I can keep my house, I can keep my wife, my wine. So that's good news. Oh, no problem. We can keep everything, but we no longer own or depend on them for our sense of fullness, completion, and satisfaction. We just play with it. They belong to Ishvara, and Ishvara is just a notion that helps us to explain things to us when we think we are the body. That's so nice, huh? And say they belong to Ishvara, and by the way, Ishvara is just your own creation. It's a thought in your mind that helps you to calm down. You understand the system here, so you know. By inference, you observe your experience and you infer certain things and you say, no, there is a power, there is an intelligence that is somehow running the show here. So I call it Ishvara, and he's the giver of the results of our actions. Therefore, I relax. I know that everything belongs to the Lord, not to the body, I, mine. You are that declares that there is no difference between what we take to be the body, the individual, and what we take to be outside of the body, the world. Those two factors. The individual subject and all the rest, the other objects, the world. Both are nothing other than awareness appearing as Ishvara, the creation. What can awareness own? And then says, awareness owns everything and nothing. Because there is only awareness. How can I own myself? There's no question of owning. Owning comes in duality because awareness is everything. Okay, we have covered one more verse. I think we are going to be good. Verse 8.6 when we get back. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Esvaro Gurate Meti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavada Bhagavate Dakshinamurtiya Namaha Sarvavedanta Siddhanta Gocharanta Magocharam Govindam Parananandam Tatiguru Pranatoshmaha. Thank you, Ramji. Thank you, Ishvara. Thank you, Shankara. Thank you all.